Good morning, grade 7 students. Here we go with our lesson about respiration, part 3. All of you know about respiratory system in humans. We said the respiratory system in humans, the most important organ, the lungs. The lungs, they are the most important organ that is found in the respiratory system of humans. The respiratory pathway of the the air pathway in the respiratory system includes first we have the nose, then we have the pharynx and the larynx, then we have the trachea, the bronchus, the bronchioles, and finally we have the alveoli, or they are called the air sacs. Breathing is the mechanical intake of air. It consists of two phases: inhalation and exhalation. Inhalation is the process of taking in air. This is what we call by inhalation. While exhalation is the process of releasing air outside our body. The movements of the thoracic cage, the state of the lungs, the volume of the thoracic cage, and the pathway of the air. During inhalation, whenever we inhale, all of you know that when we inhale, the thoracic cage will raise, and the state of the lungs, they will be full of air, they will be inflated. So volume of the thoracic cage, or the size of the thoracic cage, will increase as well. The pathway of air, we inhale air, so the air comes from outside to inside. Wherever in the exhalation process, the position of the thoracic cage, what will happen? We inhale, the thoracic cage will raise. We exhale, the thoracic cage will lower. The lungs, they will be deflated. The air is going to be outside the lungs. That's why the lungs will be deflated. The volume of the thoracic cage, whenever we exhale, the volume of the thoracic cage will increase or decrease. Sure, it will decrease. And the pathway of the air, whenever we exhale, the air will go from inside to outside. Respiratory movement in insects. First and the most important example about the insects is the grasshopper. Here, the abdomen is raised. In the second figure, the abdomen is lowered. So here, during inhalation, the abdomen is lowered, while during exhalation, it's raised. So you have to know from now on, and you have to study this. This is very important in the case of grasshopper. So you have to take note about this. If the abdomen is lowered, the grasshopper has inhaled air, while the abdomen is raised, meaning that the grasshopper has exhaled air. This is very important about the grasshopper. So you have to study these two sentences. If the abdomen is lowered, it moves down, meaning that the grasshopper is inhaling air, and this is the process of inhalation. While if the abdomen is raised, meaning that the grasshopper has exhaled air, and this is the process of exhalation. This is the parts of the grasshopper. The grasshopper consists of three parts. The head, this is the first part. The second part is called the thorax, and the third part is called the abdomen. Sparicles, they are used for breathing. So air gets in and air gets out through these particles, and through special part is called the trachea, which represent the respiratory organ in all insects. From now on, you have to know that human and mammals, they have respiratory organ, which is the lung, while insect, they have respiratory organ, which is called the trachea, where air enters through the spiracle. They are small opening, allowing the air to enter into the trachea. What is the trachea? It's the respiratory organ in all insects, and then the air will be distributed through small branches of the trachea. They are called tracheal. So still now we have two respiratory organs. The first one is called the lungs, which is in mammals, and the second is trachea in insects. Both of them, they live on land. So now it's the time for the aquatic fun. Now we go to the fish. We're going to talk about the fish which is not on land. It's aquatic organism. Aquatic, whenever we have the word aquatic, meaning that we're talking about water. So keep it in your mind. Whenever we talk about aquatic, meaning that we are talking about water. So aquatic life, meaning that the life in water. So this is the fish. It's saying, it's my turn. Let's talk about fish. Fish, they have two important organs. We have the mouth and we have the operculum. Here, you have to know that when the mouth is open, water enters through the mouth. And when the mouth is open, the operculum should be closed. While if the mouth is closed, like in this figure, the operculum should be open. Which one of these represent inhalation? And which one of these represent the exhalation? So here, the fish is respiring, meaning that we have respiration. First figure, it's during inhalation. So first, whenever the mouth is open, the water goes into the mouth, and then it goes out through the operculum. No, the mouth is open, and the operculum is closed. Where? During inhalation. So this is an important note about the respiratory movement of the fish. Mouth is open, operculum is closed. Where? During inhalation. While during exhalation, the mouth is closed, while the operculum is open. So you have to know this. So these are the summary. During inhalation, the mouth of the fish is open and the operculum is closed. So water flows into the fish through the mouth. While during exhalation, the mouth of the fish is going to be closed while the operculum is opened. So the water will flow out through the operculum. So what is the respiratory organ of the fish? Is it the mouth? No, no, it's not the mouth. Is it the operculum? No, it's not the operculum. So what is the respiratory organ of fish? It's called the gills. Gills, they are respiratory organ of the fish. What is the respiratory movement? Respiratory movement, they are inhalation or exhalation. So what is the importance of respiratory movement? Respiratory movements, they allow the renewal of the air or water in contact with the respiratory organs. Respiratory organs, what are they? Mammals, we have the lungs. Insects, we have the trachea. Fish, we have the gills. So it's the movement that allow the renewal of the air. So we take oxygen and we release carbon dioxide. This is the importance of the respiratory movements. So here, animals living on land like insects and mammals, so whenever the air gets in, it's rich in oxygen. And it goes out, it's poor in oxygen. Why? Because we as human or insects, they consume the oxygen and they release out carbon dioxide. Wherever in animals living in water like the fish and other marine animals, water gets in, it's rich in oxygen, and it goes out, it's poor in oxygen because the animals, they use the oxygen. Since we are as human or mammals or insects or even fish, all of them, they use the oxygen. That's why in the graph, if you remember, the amount of oxygen decreases. Why? Because the plant was consuming the oxygen. So during inhalation, air or water gets in, or during exhalation, the air or water goes out. So let's move now to this question. When animals or plants, they respire, what happens to the water or the air around? What do they absorb from them and what do they release? All of you know that whenever we have respiration, we have to use or we have to consume or we have to absorb. All of them, they have the same meaning. We have to consume oxygen gas since we need oxygen. While what do they release? These animals, they release what's known by CO2, carbon dioxide. So what is important from this? You have to know whenever we talk about respiratory gas exchange, we are talking about consuming oxygen gas, using the oxygen gas, and releasing CO2. So we need oxygen, it's very important, and we get rid of the CO2 by exhalation. So here, stop and let's move to this word. What is the respiratory gas exchange? Respiratory gas exchange. What is the meaning of exchange? For example, I have a pen and you have, for example, I have two pens and you have two, let's say, two markers. So exchange, I'll give you a pen and you give me a marker. This is called an exchange. But whenever we talk about respiratory gas exchange, we are talking about the exchange of gases. So respiratory gas exchange is the passage of, is the movement of respiratory gases between air or water. Why we said air or water? This you have to study it. So respiratory gases between air or water. Air, the animal living on land, like mammals or insects, while water, the animals living in water, like the fish and other marine animals. It's the gaseous exchange or the passage of gases. So we get oxygen and we release carbon dioxide. It's between air or water and the respiratory organs. Let's take an example. We as human, we have the respiratory organ, which is called the lungs. So the lungs is the respiratory organ. So whenever the air enters inside the lungs, the lungs will use the oxygen, will consume or we absorb the oxygen, and we release carbon dioxide. This is what's known by the respiratory gas exchange. It's the exchange of gases. Which gases? They are respiratory gases. Already we know that these gases they are two, oxygen and carbon dioxide. Let's move to this question. We have this fish. This fish is found inside a tube that's connected to an oximeter. If you remember, what's the role of the oximeter? It's to measure the amount of oxygen gas. So we have this table. This table is showing the composition or the variation, sorry, of the quantity of three different gases: oxygen gas, carbon dioxide gas, and the nitrogen gas. In water, what is the unit? In milliliter, the unit of volume. As a function of time, what is the unit of the time here? It's in minutes. So if you notice here, we have time 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So we have 6 minutes, and we have the quantity of oxygen, the quantity of carbon dioxide, and the quantity of nitrogen gas. Let's have a look at this table. The quantity of oxygen at the beginning, it was 7. And as time moves to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 minutes, what's happening here? The amount of oxygen is decreasing. 7 to 6.6 to 6.4 to 6.2 to 6.1 to 5.8 to 5.6. So what can we notice here is the amount of oxygen is decreasing, while carbon dioxide at the beginning it was 3 milliliter. After 1 minute it was 3.2. 2 minutes it's a 3.3. 3 minutes it's 3.5. 3.8. 4 reaches 4.1. So amount of carbon dioxide it increases from 3 to 4.1. Let's have a look about these two, oxygen and carbon dioxide. The amount of oxygen is decreasing from time 0 to time 6 minutes. It decreases from 7 milliliter to 5.6 milliliter. What can we conclude from this? We can conclude that the fish is consuming or it's using oxygen. So from now on, we don't use the word using. It's consuming or it's absorbing the oxygen. That's why the amount of oxygen it decreases. Whereas the quantity of carbon dioxide, it was 3 at time 0. Whenever we move to time 6 minutes, the amount of carbon dioxide or the quantity of carbon dioxide, it increases to 4.1. What does this mean? This means that the fish is consuming the carbon dioxide. If it's consuming, meaning that the amount of carbon dioxide should decrease. But the amount of carbon dioxide here is increasing. This means that the fish is releasing carbon dioxide. Now, let's move to the nitrogen gas. Nitrogen gas, at time 0 it was 19, time 1 19, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 it was 19. It was the same. From now on, you have to change the word the same and you have to use the word constant. It remains constant at 19 milliliter. So here, there is no exchange of nitrogen. From this table, we can conclude that only oxygen and carbon dioxide, they are respiratory gases, and others, which is nitrogen in this case, is not a respiratory gas since it remains the same and it remains constant. First step, the reset transform this table into a graph. We want to draw the graph. First of all, graph should have 3 to 4 important notes. We're going to talk about them. Then we move to interpret. What do they say about interpret? It's analyze plus indication. 43, what would you deduce or what can you conclude? Let's start with first with the graph. The graph will include 3 different lines. One of them for oxygen, second for carbon dioxide, and the third for the nitrogen. So first of all, you have to write the title for the graph. Graph, this one, this line, time in minutes, it represents what? It's the x-axis. And this one, the quantity of gas in milliliter, it represents the y-axis. Okay? Always, the graph title should be the variation of the y. Which one on the y? The variation of the quantity of the gases. Which are the gases? Oxygen, carbon dioxide, and nitrogen gases. In water, in milliliter, as a function of the x-axis. Always, mostly on the x-axis is going to be the time in minutes. So always the title should be the variation of the y-axis as a function of that on the x-axis. Always the horizontal line, it's the x-axis. The vertical line, it's the y-axis. So it's the variation of the y, the variation of the quantity of the gases, oxygen, nitrogen, and carbon dioxide, as a function of the x, as a function of time in minutes. This is the first one. Who can tell me by raising the hand? Who can tell me before we have a look? What does this line represent? Oxygen, carbon dioxide, or nitrogen? And justify your answer. Let's see, first bonus point will go for home in semester 2. Let's say by raising the hands, what does this line represent? Oxygen gas, carbon dioxide, or nitrogen? Let's see who will answer the first part for the first bonus point for this semester. Let's see, raising the hands. Yeah. Raising your hands. The first part, who will answer this part? What does this red line represent? It's for oxygen, for carbon dioxide. Yes, Zahra? Good morning, Zahra. Good morning, Zahra.
Good morning.
Okay, so what does this line represent? Oxygen, carbon dioxide, or nitrogen? And you have to justify your answer. Yeah, let's see. It's increasing or decreasing?
It's
It's moving down or up?
decreasing.
It's
Decreasing.
decreasing. Very good. So what does this line represent? The quantity is decreasing. It's for oxygen or carbon dioxide or nitrogen. What do you think? Which gas is decreasing here in this table? Which gas is decreasing? Oxygen, carbon dioxide, or nitrogen?
Oxygen.
Oxygen. So this line represents the one for oxygen. Thank you, Zahra. The first bonus point it go for Zahra. Thank you. So the first line, or first red line, it represents the one for the oxygen. The second one, already I gave you the legend here. The second one is amount is increasing. So it's for carbon dioxide, since the carbon dioxide is released. And the third one is for nitrogen. So it remains constant. Someone is going to ask me, why did you put here 7 and then move always to 19? Since I don't have enough space, so I put a dash here and then I move to 19. But you on the graph, you have to respect the scale. So you move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then you have to move 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 to reach 19. But here I don't have enough space. That's why I put the dash here. But you have to respect the scale. Some of you, what did they do in the exam? They moved 1, 2, 3, and then you put 7. How come? You disrespect the scale. You put the scale every 1 centimeter represent 1 milliliter. 1, 2, 3, and then you put 7. So you move 4. So this is not true. So you have to respect the scale. This is the graph. Graph, you have to put the title for the graph, title for the x-axis, and title for the y-axis as shown here. You have to give the scale, step number 3, and the legend, and the fifth step should be drawing the graph. The last step, you draw the graph. First, you give it a title for the graph. So keep this in your mind from now on. You don't have to have mistakes in such a graph. You have to write the title. It's the variation of the y as a function of the x. Second step, you have to write the title of the x-axis, like here, time in minutes, and the y-axis, the quantity of oxygen. Third step, you have to write the scale. Every 1 centimeter on the x-axis, it represents 1 minute. Every 1 centimeter on the y-axis, it's 1 milliliter. Fourth, you have to write the legend. Here I use different colors. You can use symbols as we used before, triangle, boxes, circles, as you do. And fourth, and the fifth step, which is drawing the graph or plotting the graph. Let's move to the interpret. Interpreting the graph, it's analyze plus indication. At time 0, the amount or the quantities of oxygen, carbon dioxide, and nitrogen in water, they were 7, 3, and 19, respectively. Pay attention to this. 7, 3, and 19, respectively. What does this mean? This means the first one, I said oxygen, carbon dioxide, and nitrogen. So the first oxygen is for the first number. The second is for the carbon dioxide. The third is for the nitrogen. That's why I use the word respectively. Respectively, the first with the first. So the quantity of oxygen, carbon dioxide, and nitrogen, they were 7, 3, and 19, respectively. So oxygen, it's 7. Carbon dioxide, it's a 3. And the third one, nitrogen, for the third number, 19. So pay attention to this. It can help you a lot while doing the interpret. So as time passes, the quantity of oxygen decreases. So always whenever we have to interpret, we have to use increase or decreases. So to reach the minimum value, minimum level, 5.6 at time equals 6 minutes. Some of you are going to ask me, can I say as time increases from 0 to 6, the quantity of carbon dioxide, of oxygen, sorry, decreases to 5.6? Yes, you can do this. So here we did the analysis. Indication. What does this indicate? This indicates that the fish is consuming oxygen gas. So the oxygen is a respiratory gas since the amount of oxygen is decreasing. While as time passes, the quantity of carbon dioxide increases to reach the maximum value of 4.1, the highest value at time equals 6 minutes. This is the analysis. Interpret, need indication. So this indicates that the fish is releasing carbon dioxide. So carbon dioxide is a respiratory gas. If you notice, I said here is releasing carbon dioxide, and here I said it's consuming. From now on, you don't have to say, for example, the fish is using oxygen gas. No more the word using. You have to use the word consuming instead of using. So biological term, some terms in biology, we have to use them. Consuming oxygen and not using. And releasing carbon dioxide, not, for example, say giving carbon dioxide. You have to say releasing. So these terms, they are very important. You have to take notes about these terms. Okay? So as time passes from 0 to 6, the quantity of nitrogen remains constant. Did you pay attention here? The word remains constant at 19, meaning that it stays at 19, didn't change. What does this indicate? This indicates the fish neither consumes nor absorbs the gas, which is the nitrogen gas. So here we can conclude that the nitrogen gas is not a respiratory gas. So what can we deduce? The fish respires, it inhales oxygen and exhales carbon dioxide. So here, what is about the conclusion for this? Okay, guys. So this is everything for our session for today. Thank you.